When I informed Jack that I wanted a divorce, he turned philosophical and uttered something that still lingers in my mind. The grass isn't greener on the other side, Wendy. It's greener where you water it. Honestly, it didn't matter. I was 25, stuck in the suburbs with a toddler, while my Instagram feed was flooded with my friends living glamorous lives. Hi, I'm Jack. I'm 28 now. But this story truly begins about 6 years ago, when Wendy and I, young and in love, decided to get married. Isn't that how all these stories usually start? Don't roll your eyes yet. This isn't your typical young love gone wrong tale. Well, maybe it is, but it's my story, and I need to tell it. You're too young to get married, my mom warned, stirring her coffee with that familiar worried expression she'd mastered. But Wendy and I were confident we had everything figured out. That first year felt like a dream. I'd come home to Wendy excitedly planning our future, even sketching ideas for a nursery before we were expecting. "Look, babe," she'd say with her eyes sparkling. "I found the perfect shade of yellow. It works for a boy or a girl." When Emily was born, everything changed. Holding that tiny baby in my arms, I vowed to move mountains for her. I started picking up extra shifts at work and even took on a side hustle in web development. "We're going to give her everything," I told Wendy, who, though exhausted, was glowing in her hospital bed. "We're really doing this whole adulting thing. Aren't you proud of us?" She joked during those early days as we navigated parenthood together. But over time, her jokes began to feel different, heavier. I first noticed the shift when Wendy's friend Lisa began posting about her trips to Miami. Wendy would scroll through those pictures for hours, her face growing distant. "Must be nice," she'd mutter while bouncing Emily on her knee. "Just hopping on a plane whenever you feel like it." The comments became more frequent. "Did you see Melissa's new boyfriend? He's some hotshot DJ in Vegas." Or, "Sarah landed that marketing job in New York. Remember when I wanted to do marketing?" I tried to make things better. Date nights, surprise gifts, little trips when we could afford them. But it felt like trying to fill a bucket with a leak. "You don't get it, Jack," she said one night after Emily had gone to bed. We were sitting on the porch where I had proposed. "I look at our friends. They're living, really living. And we're just here." "We're building something real," I argued. "We have Emily, our home." "I'm 27, Jack," she replied, her voice breaking. "I feel like I'm 50. After that, the conversations got harder. More silence, more sighs. More nights when Wendy would go out with friends and return with mascara streaked down her cheeks. I'll never forget the morning she brought up the divorce. It was such an ordinary day. Emily was playing with her cereal, making her usual mess. Wendy looked up from her phone and said, "I think we should get divorced." Just like that, like she was suggesting we try a new restaurant. "I need to find myself, Jack," she explained, her voice calm while my world fell apart. "We got married too young. This isn't what I want anymore." I suggested counseling, a trial separation. Anything, but you can't make someone stay when they've already left emotionally. Looking back, I think Wendy had mentally checked out long before those words came. The legal process, the paperwork, and the negotiations were a blur. It felt like I was underwater. The only thing that kept me grounded was Emily's small hand in mine during park visits, or her innocent questions about why Daddy didn't live at home anymore. "Sometimes grown-ups need to live in different houses," I'd explain, trying to keep my voice steady. "But Mummy and Daddy both love you so much." Here's the thing. People talk about the heartbreak of divorce, but no one prepares you for the numbness. The strange feeling of stepping into a new apartment with half your life packed into boxes. The way your thumb hovers over your ex's number out of habit, only to remember that you're not part of their life anymore. But this isn't just a story about an ending. Looking back, I realized it was also the beginning of something entirely new, even if I didn't see it at the time. Hey, it's Wendy here. Let me clear the air. I'm not the villain in this story, okay? When I told Jack I wanted a divorce, he got all wise and said something that still sticks in my head. The grass isn't greener on the other side, Wendy. It's greener where you water it. Whatever. I was 25, stuck in a suburban rut with a toddler, while my Instagram was bursting with images of my friends living their best lives. Do you know what it's like to watch your college roommate date a Miami Heat player while you're scrubbing baby food off your shirt? Lisa would FaceTime me from rooftop parties, her world filled with designer clothes and champagne brunches. You should have been here, she'd squeal. Meanwhile, I'd sit in my living room surrounded by Emily's toys, feeling like my youth was slipping through my fingers. At the marriage counselor Jack insisted on, they asked me what I wanted. I want to feel alive again, I said, while Jack just stared at me with that heartbroken look. You have a beautiful family, the counselor offered. Yeah, well, beautiful families don't get you thousands of likes or invites to exclusive clubs, I muttered. My lawyer was a force of nature in stilettos, exactly what I needed. You're young, you have primary custody, and he earns good money, she said confidently, tapping her nails on her desk. When the divorce was finalized, my lawyer assured me, we'll set you up nicely, and she delivered. Generous alimony, child support, and the house. Jack didn't put up much of a fight. He just looked disappointed, like he knew something I hadn't figured out yet. That first taste of freedom? It was intoxicating. I dove headfirst into my new life. Pool parties, VIP sections, and dating men with blue checkmarks beside their names. My parents took care of Emily while I found myself, which mostly involved cosmopolitan cocktails and nights in South Beach lounges. Last month, I had what I thought would be my perfect night. Front row seats to a Drake concert and a VIP after-party at Eclipse. I wore a silver dress that cost more than I spend on groceries in a month. Living your best life, girl, Lisa squealed, snapping photos for Instagram stories. This was what I thought I'd been missing. The party was everything I had imagined. Beautiful people, endless champagne, a DJ whose name I probably should have recognized. But around 2 a.m., as I sat in a booth that cost more than $2,000 to reserve, I had this clear, undeniable moment of realization. I watched everyone around me trying so hard to look like they were having the time of their lives. Sarah was crying in the bathroom over a guy she barely knew. Madison was obsessively checking her follower count. And me? I was thinking about Emily's school play, the one I missed to be here. OMG, did you see who just walked in? Lisa grabbed my arm, nearly spilling her drink. That's Jake's manager, you know, the one I told you about. He totally follows me. Does he know you bought half your followers? Madison muttered, barely under her breath. Suddenly they were arguing over who was more authentic on Instagram. At least I don't Photoshop my waist, Lisa snapped. Says the girl who got lip fillers and pretends they're natural, Sarah chimed in, seemingly recovered from her crying fit. I sat there watching my fabulous friends tear each other apart over filters and followers. And for the first time it all felt empty, completely empty. Jack had offered to take Emily on weekends, but I often declined out of spite. Why should he get to play happy family when I'd fought so hard for custody? Besides, my parents were always willing to babysit. Emily asked for you 3 times today, my mom would say, giving me a look that sent a pang of guilt through me. But then my phone would buzz with plans for the evening and the guilt would fade. Dating was thrilling at first. There was a semi-famous DJ who flew me out to his shows and a retired athlete with a Lamborghini. Each new guy made me feel like I was finally living the life I envied online. This is what I deserve, I'd think, posting perfectly filtered pictures designed to make my married friends jealous. But here's the thing. These men vanished as quickly as a Snapchat story once they realized I had a child. "You're amazing, but I'm not looking for anything serious," became a line I could recite from memory. Some wanted to keep things casual, their enthusiasm fading when I mentioned Emily. On some nights, after another disappointing date, I'd find myself scrolling through photos of Jack and Emily at the park. His words about the grass being greener would echo in my mind. Those nights were the hardest. My DMs would be full of fire emojis from strangers, but my expensive, meticulously decorated house felt hollow. Surely things would turn around soon, wouldn't they? Meanwhile, 3 years after the divorce, Jack was a completely different person from the man I'd left. That broken guy who used to stare at his phone, waiting for me to realize my mistake. He was gone. Not because he was bitter. He was actually thankful. Sometimes the hardest moments in life are exactly what you need to grow. The first year wasn't easy for him. Every other weekend with Emily felt like a cruel reminder of what he'd lost. "Daddy, why can't I stay longer?" she'd ask, and it would shatter his heart all over again. But he refused to become the bitter, resentful divorcee. Emily deserved better than that. Jack poured himself into 2 things: being the best father he could be during his time with Emily and rebuilding his life when she wasn't there. He hit the gym at 5 a.m., learned to cook meals beyond mac and cheese, and even took coding classes to advance his career. "You're different," his sister noted one Sunday over coffee. "Stronger, maybe." Jack hadn't realized it until she said it. But she was right. Those early morning workouts had transformed more than just his body. Each push-up, each mile, helped him release the anger and pain until there was hardly any left to let go of. One day everything changed. Jack was at the park teaching Emily how to ride her bike without training wheels when a woman jogging nearby doubled back after seeing Emily fall. "Is she okay?" she asked, genuine concern in her eyes. That woman was Kelly, a pediatric nurse with a soft spot for single dads who could laugh while picking themselves up off the ground. Their first date wasn't a fancy dinner, it was ice cream with Emily. Kelly didn't even flinch when Emily got chocolate sauce all over her designer jeans. "Kids are supposed to be messy," she said with a laugh, helping Emily clean up. "It means they're having fun." It took me 3 months before I formally introduced Kelly to Emily as someone I was seeing. You should have witnessed how thoughtful Kelly was about it, reading books on blended families and always checking what Emily felt comfortable with. "She's the priority," Kelly would say. "We go at her pace." Last month, while we were preparing dinner together, Kelly was busy cooking, and I was trying not to ruin the salad when she casually mentioned wanting children of her own someday. My heart did this strange flip. Here was this incredible woman, 7 years younger than me, who could have been with any guy without complications, yet she chose me. A divorced dad with limited custody and emotional scars. "You know," I told her, "I think I'm pretty good at this dad thing now. Got some practice." She laughed and tossed a piece of carrot at me. "We're expecting our first child together in 6 months. We found out just after I proposed. Emily couldn't be happier about becoming a big sister. She's already decided on names for both a boy and a girl." Watching Emily and Kelly bond over baby catalogues makes me stop and wonder how I got so fortunate. Occasionally, I run into mutual friends who bring up Wendy's life on Instagram. The parties, the dating escapades, the perfectly curated photos. I usually nod and steer the conversation elsewhere. That world feels so distant now, like a movie I saw long ago but can't remember the details of. Yesterday, Kelly and I went house hunting. With a baby on the way, we need more room, and Emily will need her own space when she stays with us. "What about a yard?" Kelly suggested. "For the kids to play in?" The way she said kids, like it was the most natural thing in the world, made me realize how far I've come. Emily has noticed it too. Last weekend, she looked up from her coloring book and said, "Daddy, you smile a lot more now. Out of the mouths of babes, right? You know what's funny?" Wendy left because she thought she was missing out on life. But sitting here now, with Kelly asleep on the couch, her hand resting on her growing belly, and Emily's drawings covering the fridge, I've realized something. I'm not missing out on anything. This is life, messy, real, and perfectly imperfect. They say the best revenge is living well, but this isn't about revenge. It's about understanding that sometimes you have to let go of the life you plan to find the one that's waiting for you. It's been 3 years since I swapped my wedding ring for what I thought was a ticket to the life I dreamed of. Now I'm 30, sitting in my too quiet house on a Friday night, scrolling through dating apps that make me feel like a leftover on a clearance rack. "Sorry, I don't date single moms," was the rejection from last week. A text, not even in person, after I mentioned Emily during coffee. The guy had been charming up until then, laughing at my jokes, touching my hand. The second I brought up my daughter, his expression shifted, his interest evaporating. My Instagram following has dwindled by half. Turns out people lose interest in photos of the same clubs with a revolving door of faces that mean nothing. Remember Lisa, my glamorous friend who dated the Miami Heat player? She married an accountant in Ohio last month. "The party scene gets old," she admitted over FaceTime, showing me her suburban backyard. I needed something real. Something real. I had something real, didn't I? And I gave it up, for what? Yesterday, I drove past Jack's new house. I'm not proud of it, but sometimes I can't help myself. Their car was in the driveway. There was Jack, his fiancée Kelly, perfect of course, and Emily, skipping up the path with her school bag. She looked so happy, chatting away to Kelly, who had this baby bump under her sweater. They looked like a family out of a commercial. "It's not fair," I vented to my therapist. "Yes, I have one now. He gets to upgrade to some younger woman while I'm stuck dating guys who disappear the second they find out I have a child." "Are you angry at Jack," she asked, "or at yourself?" I hate when she does that. On paper, my life looks great. A nice house, steady alimony, primary custody of Emily. But tell that to my heart at 3 a.m. when I'm lying awake, wondering where it all went wrong. My real friends, not the party crowd, have mostly settled down. Their social media is filled with family trips and soccer games, while I keep convincing myself that the next swipe right might be different. My mom doesn't hold back anymore. "You chose this," she said last week when I cried about another failed date. "But choosing something different now doesn't make you a failure, Wendy. It makes you wiser." The breaking point came last month at Emily's school play. I was sitting alone, watching my little girl shine in her star costume when Jack walked in with Kelly. He guided her to her seat like she was made of glass, her pregnant belly unmistakable. After the show, Emily ran straight to them. They looked so natural together. I left early, tears streaming down my face in the school parking lot. Some nights I scroll through old photos, past the club shots and selfies, back to when we were young, foolish and happy. There's one of Jack teaching Emily to walk, his face glowing with joy as she wobbled toward him. Back then, I was so busy watching other people's lives, I forgot to live my own. My dating profile says I'm living my best life. But those words feel hollow now. What does that even mean? The men I meet either want something casual or are divorced dads looking for someone without baggage. Their word, not mine. The irony of being labelled baggage by men with kids of their own isn't lost on me. The worst part? Jack was right. That annoying thing he said about the grass being greener where you water it, I can't get it out of my head. I spent so much time climbing fences to see what was on the other side, I let my own yard dry up. Last week, Emily asked me, "Why aren't you married like Daddy's going to be?" "Don't you want to be happy, Mummy?" 6-year-olds don't hold back, do they? I told her I was happy, but she just gave me a look. Kids know more than we think. So here I am, 30 years old, watching my ex-husband build his ideal new life while I'm stuck in a loop of bad dates and regret. My friends tell me I'm still young, that it's not too late to start over. Maybe they're right. Or maybe this is karma. The universe teaching me that what you have is sometimes worth more than what you think you want. The funny thing about freedom is that it can feel an awful lot like being lost. And all those doors I thought would open when I left Jack. They turned out to be revolving doors, spinning me right back to where I started. Only now, I'm older, a bit wiser, and far lonelier. But hey, at least I've got my Instagram memories. Even if most of them are just polished versions of an empty life I thought I wanted.